Hi again, everybody. Jeff Rentz here, coast to coast, and live, of course, on the internet around the world. It's Friday, the end of another week. Boy, they go fast, and this is the last week of January 1999. Hard to believe. Tonight, a very special program with a legend. Ingo Swann will be here for all 3 hours this evening to talk about many things, including his new book entitled Penetration. Ingo, of course, the renowned psi researcher, reveals in the book a long-held secret series of experiences with a deep black agency whose apparent charter was simple: UFOs and ETs on the moon, and worries about ET telepathic mind control powers. All that and much more up next with Ingo Swann. For those of you who don't know the name Ingo Swann, you will after the program tonight. I urge you to sit back and open your mind and take in some fascinating material. We have had many of the great remote viewers on this program over the years. I'm very honored to have had conversations, of course, with Joe McMoneagle, Lynn Buchanan, and others. This goes all the way back to the early days at the Stanford Research Institute, and we will talk about that some tonight. To give you an idea of the roots and the history of my guest this evening, I'd like to read to you just for about 2 minutes and give you some of the press clippings that he gathered in the 1970s, which were, well, they'll speak for themselves. Let me just read a bit to you. Science felt a small ripple when, in 1973, parapsychologist Dr. Gertrude Schmeidler reported the extraordinary success, the first of its kind, of a mind-over-matter experiment. Ingo Swann, using only his mind, repeatedly had been able to cause controlled temperature changes in a sealed, distant vacuum. It could now be seen that the human mind was capable of extending its powers beyond the confines of the brain. Time magazine, 4/23/1973, wondered if Swann's powers were more dangerous than the atomic bomb. The Smithsonian, in June of 1973, speculated on the source of Swann's talents when it reported that at Stanford University he had, quote, apparently altered the performance of a deeply buried, heavily shielded magnetometer for 30-second periods through the use of PK, and by then looking into the device and describing its mechanism, end quote. Horizon magazine, winter of 1974. Time magazine, March of 74, and Newsweek, March of 74, surmised that Ingo Swann's confirmed PK and clairvoyant powers required a rethinking concerning the importance of psychic giftedness. After 1974, Swann's participation in research became more vigorous. He became an intensively studied guinea pig at the famous think tank, Stanford Research Institute, otherwise known, of course, as SRI, and worked with dozens of other researchers in the U.S. and in Europe. John Wilhelm, in his 1976 book, The Search for Superman, indicated that Ingo Swann flies straight out of Star Maker. His results are remarkable. In Germany, Esoterra, in December of 1976, termed Swann the foremost super psychic of psi research in America. The Reader's Digest in September of 77 reported that recent research confirmed that Swann, in remote viewing experiments, could go, end quotes, to any spot on the globe and sketch correctly roads and buildings just as they are at that point. McCall's magazine, January 77, wondered if Ingo Swann's abilities could be used for psychic spying, as did the San Francisco Examiner and the Washington Post, as well as columnist Jack Anderson, writing about the ESP gap between the U.S. and the USSR. Remember, that was at the height of the Cold War. New Times magazine, 1978, speculated that Ingo Swann had become a psychic super weapon. In 1978, November, Swann was the featured banquet speaker at the annual meeting of the U.S. Army Materiel Systems Analysis Activity. After 1978, although extensive publicity continued internationally, Swann's ongoing work became shrouded in a cloak of secrecy. In 1987, Swann re-emerged from behind the psi curtain to publish Natural ESP, a layman's guide to unlocking the extrasensory powers of the mind. Much has gone on since then. He is here tonight. His new book is entitled Penetration, the Question of Extraterrestrial and Human Telepathy. Well, I'm tired, Ingo. I'm going to take a rest.
Me too.
Thank you for being here tonight.
I don't know how to live up to all that anymore.
Well, all you got to do is talk. And, the words will do it. It's a great pleasure and an honor to have you on the program. You don't make many media appearances, and I'm grateful on behalf of all of the listeners to have this time with you. From New York City, I'm on the West Coast, you're on the East. This book, Penetration, I tell you the truth, I have read passages in it that are as gripping as any I've read in years, and they are all true. Let's go to the beginning here just for fun and talk about your childhood and that early UFO sighting. What kind of a boy was Ingo Swann?
I was a bookworm and a naturalist. I was born in Telluride, Colorado, which was simply one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And I loved nature, and I did hiking and climbing and foresting and everything like that. But I could really deal with books by the time I was 4, and I've spent most of my life reading.
It's a tragically lost art for many young people today who are so wired up to various electronic and sensory media. They just don't pick up books often enough, and it's nice to hear. And not a surprise that you were the type that would go through. You'd take a book and go for a walk and read.
No, I very seldom mixed them. I read and then I walked.
Cogitating all the time, no doubt.
Oh, cogitating. I wanted to know about everything, and it was easy for me to do. And as a result, I have thousands of books, and I don't know what to do with them anymore.
Who are some of your favorite authors?
Oh, well, let's see. I always liked Henry L. Mencken because of his, surgical wit about society.
He did have a rapier mind.
It was wonderful. And let's see. Oh, I hate to say it, but I liked Ayn Rand. You're not supposed to like her, but I did.
We'll look the other way.
I will look the other way.
It's all right. No, come on. She's a very important writer.
Well, yes. We'll just look the other way. And when I really found psychic books, I read the Book of Tao for the first time when I was 8, and that got me into Eastern, what we call Eastern mysticism, I guess. And then I found Western books about psychic research. When I was in the Army, I really hadn't known too much of them earlier on. It started with Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception, and that got me into Doors of Perception, and that's been the love of my life ever since.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
What would drive a man of such intellect to enlist in the Army?
Well, I was deferred while I was in college, but in those years, when you got out of college, you had to spend 2 years in the Army. Everybody did.
Sure.
And so I went down to volunteer nobody would hire you for any job, and it just got impossible. So I went down to volunteer for the draft and was told there was a 1-year waiting period. So I said, well, I have 3 years then. So I enlisted. I went in right away. And actually, you're not supposed to say you love the Army, but I thought it was. I had a wonderful time in the Army and experience and things, even though it's, a really gruesome thing in the long run. But I learned about the world.
That's what they promise.
I learned about the world. I learned about how the Army structures work. I learned about, social structures. It was a very big learning experience. I spent most of it in the Far East, which was right it. I studied Eastern mysticism with Buddhist priests and things like that. I considered it an opportunity.
Ah, indeed. The first time you saw something up in the sky that you didn't understand, tell us about that.
That was when I was in high school in Utah. We had moved to Utah, and I used to go. There wasn't big mountains there, but there was a sort of a big round hill called Little Mountain, and I walked up there one day, and I lay down, and I could see out across the Great Bonneville Valley, which has Great Salt Lake in it. This was in the 50s, early 50s. maybe it was in the late 40s. I'm sure it was in the late 40s, I guess. And way far away there was this a spot of light moving. The sun was just getting ready to go down, and this big white light was moving across, and I thought it was a jet plane, or a plane. Mm-hmm. But suddenly it just made a right-hand turn and went down, straight down, and it got behind into a shadow of one of the islands in the Great Salt Lake. And I said, "Oh, that plane has crashed." And so I stood up, thinking if there was nothing I could do. And as I stood up thinking what to do, it came back up again, straight up, and approached its very high altitude and took off to the west like a speeding bullet. That was the first one I ever saw. And I had no idea what that was. For years, I had no idea what that was.
You didn't run home and tell the folks then?
Well, the folks were about 8 miles away, so...
Did you discuss it with them? Did you discuss it? Did you talk to them about it?
Sure.
What'd they say?
Nobody knew what to say.
Nobody knew. We weren't thinking UFO back then. Not like we are now. We're going to pause and come right back with Ingo Swann, and we'll let you hear this story, and it's contained in his book, which is easily one of the most remarkable books of the year. And my guest, Ingo Swann. That's two N's on Swann. His book called Penetration. We'll tell you how to get that. Here is a man who was at one point, by Time magazine, considered potentially more dangerous than the atomic bomb. They wondered about that. Also called a super weapon by New Times magazine in 1978. The whole issue of the USSR and the U.S. and the psychic wars that were going on at that point, we'll talk about that later on as well. And this man that I have described as a potential superweapon is also quite an artist, and you can see some of his marvelous paintings on his website, which I will tell you how to get to in a few minutes, as we also discuss how to acquire this book, which, as I've said, is one of the most intriguing of the year, without any doubt. How did this whole thing start, Ingo, with the psychic ability? As a kid, did you feel you had extraordinary abilities, or was it something you came to confront later on in life?
No, I just, well, if we use Aldous Huxley's rubric of doors of perception, I just had a lot of them when I was a kid. A lot of kids do, and
sure.
So I just rapped about everything I saw, and everybody took it with a grain of salt. The family doctor said I'd grow out of it.
Give me an idea of what that was like.
Seeing energies around things. And this was wonderful. I called them my butterfly lights, and nobody knew what they were, so I just called them butterfly lights. And seeing things at a distance, too. I could tell if people were lying by the color around their faces and things like that. And anyhow, I did grow out of it.
Was it sociologically pushed out of your consciousness because of pressures, or did it just something that sort of took a back seat for a while?
Oh, a little bit of both. It made you weird, and it actually, I think my family tolerated it pretty good, but in school, peer pressures, everybody likes everybody to be about the same.
Well, they demand it now.
And, they demanded it then, too, but there was, I guess, a bit more latitude. But it sort of went away of its own. In addition to that, as I've studied these mental processes, and when you individuate, you want to individuate in a way that you still fit into the society around you, and so there are things that go away, not just psychic abilities, but other kinds of abilities too. If a child is musically inclined and he's living in an environment which is not, then that could go away. So things do go away.
Was the artistic ability always there as well?
That was always there. My father gave me a set of watercolors when I was about 4, and I took those on, and then I decided I wanted some oil paints, so I got some oil paints too, and the smell of real canvas and oil paints
Pretty romantic smell.
Well, I mean, if you're into it.
Mm-hmm. No, I've had artists tell me they get in that environment and it's magic to them.
Oh, yeah. It's just, I don't know, it's something that I'm going to discuss in another book called Psychic Creativity.
So looking at your artworks, and I hope all of you can get to the website, it is www.biomind, this is a long one, Biomind, BIOMIND, Superpowers, all one word, so biomindsuperpowers.com, and that'll take you right there, and what an opening venue we have.
But not all the visuals are mine. I've included a few other artists, too, and I plan to change them every now and then.
Very good. A lot of information on the site about Psi, about the book, about remote viewing. Of course, we really can't do anything by way of a conversation on remote viewing without coming back to Ingo Swann. I remember having Ed May on the program the first time that Ed and I talked, and he gave me a pretty good background on the early days at SRI. How did you come to be enfolded in the entire SRI thing in the beginning?
Well,
what were you doing? Minding your own business?
No, I was having a ball doing research at the American Society for Psychical Research here in New York, where remote viewing was more or less discovered and given its first concrete form. And this had also gotten a lot of media attention. There was lots of other kinds of experiments going on, you know. By 1974, I'd done over 500,000 experiments.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
That number.
These are experimental trials.
Yeah.
And out at SRI in about 1974 and 5, we decided, I was keeping track of them all numerically, and we decided it just got too much. It was redundant. But between 1970 and 74, I had worked with so many people doing so many experiments that I had done 500,000 trials of various experiments. But remote viewing sort of came up and was finally identified and named in December of 1971. And when Dr. Putoff invited me to come out to SRI to play around and discuss things, I took all of that experimental work out there to show him, and that's how sort of remote viewing got into the SRI framework. It was very rough or raw at that point, but later on it developed.
Yeah. Coming up on our next break, what is the easiest way, Ingo, for people to access a copy of your book?
This is a self-published book because no publisher would touch it. And there is a simple way. It's a toll-free order number.
Right. That is?
888-453-4046.
All right. And
you start with 1 on it.
Always. 888-453-4046, and we'll repeat that as we continue. We'll take our bottom of the hour break and come right back. Okay, we are back, and we are talking with Ingo about SRI, Stanford Research Institute. Dr. Hal Putoff had you come out after 500,000 exercises, as it were, in this field of...
well, I don't think he realized that had been that many. He eventually found out.
Was he surprised?
Oh...
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you do 200 in the morning and 200 in the afternoon for over a year, it starts adding up.
Oh, it sure does.
No, I wasn't surprised. He's a wonderful person. I mean, he's really amongst the most wonderful. He's very cool and calm and collected. Mm-hmm. And, no, it was, he accepted it as evidence that I was a hard worker, I guess, or something like that.
Indeed. When did the CIA become involved in SRI and the research you were doing?
Well...
Were they there when you got there, or did they join in later?
No, they came in camouflage to the American Society for Psychical Research long before I've even heard of Dr. Putoff. I didn't know who this guy was.
So they were tracking you in New York.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, they were.
You said something interesting in the book about Stanford, that the worst thing for a remote viewer that is death to success is, I guess, repetition and boredom. Wasn't it boredom? Same old thing?
Well, I had a high threshold for it, but it was very sensible, do some fun things to alleviate the boredom and then get back to the boredom.
Sort of common sense, yeah. So you proposed little fun breaks from the routine.
Yes.
That's an important diversion, and therein really turns some of the early story in the book. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, the first fun thing that we figured out we could do was, NASA had its craft on the way to Jupiter. So I said, why don't we try to remote view Jupiter, and then the crafts that are going there can give us feedback on whether we were right or not,
Because validation is essential.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely essential. Many people have forgotten that since then, but no, it was a good opportunity. I mean, they were going to learn more about Jupiter, and so let's try it first, and this turned into a big to-do.
Yes.
I thought it'd be just a simple thing, but Putoff and Russell Tark sent the impressions to a lot of scientists so they could have them in their hands before the feedback came, and so it turned into a big to-do.
When you gained the impressions, was anyone else working on this Jupiter thing, or just you?
No, the famous psychic Harold Sherman was working on it at his home in Arkansas,
mm-hmm.
and was working on it in California. We did it about the same time period.
Was he linked up with SRI in any way, or was he independent?
No, he was just a very wonderful friend of mine.
Mm-hmm. So you told him, here's what we're going to do, take a shot at it.
I said, would you like to go to Jupiter? He said, oh, sure. Anyhow, it turned into a big to-do, and it still is a big to-do,
Yeah, it is. How many sessions did you put in on
Just
the
one.
Jupiter project? Just one?
Just one.
Give us an idea of what you tasked yourself to come up with.
Well, to find Jupiter, first of all, psychically, and then start reporting on it. And actually, it was a very short session. I just described what I saw in the terms that I had available to me. But all but one of there was eventually a big document was produced identifying everything and showing scientific confirmation of it in various scientific journals and things like that.
You hit, you're being modest here, you hit on an awful lot of the reality of Jupiter.
I hit them all.
That's a lot.
Eventually, it wasn't immediately apparent, but 9 years later, I drew a ring around Jupiter, and I said the planet has a ring, and maybe more than one. And they didn't find that until 1979, and this experiment took place in 1973. The magnetic fields and all of the other stuff and everything. The only thing that Harold and I found, he didn't see the ring, but we both saw what we called mountains. And everybody denied that there's mountains on Jupiter to this day, but when you remember when the comets hit Jupiter a few years ago?
Shoemaker-Levy.
Those things. When the planet turned next, you could see these craters, these big things sticking up through the clouds. So, is that not a mountain type of thing? So
Passes in my book.
Yeah. So one day they'll say there's mountains on Jupiter, I guess. But the percentage of feedback was, even in the first 3 years after that, we were up at 85% correct.
And from that moment on, Ingo Swann was a man to be watched very closely. And you were. Stanford Research Institute led to some remarkable meetings. Again, all of this is in the book and much more. We're just barely touching it. I'm still intrigued by the twins. We need to talk about that. So if you want to start
You better
into it.
put them in context.
Yes, and I'll let you do that. You're the storyteller.
No, you do it. You do it.
The twins and Mr. Axelrod,
Yes.
whom you call him. This is a very interesting part of the book. We talk about black budget programs. There are programs that are so deep and dark that, as I mentioned early on, there are no paper trails. There are no documents. There's nothing. They just exist almost in a spontaneous, what would seem to be spontaneous, but extremely pragmatic dimension. You were called by a friend of yours and told to go to a museum, stand by, I believe it was a mammoth, a big mammoth skeleton. Oh, no, elephant, excuse me. It was an elephant. And the name of the museum escapes me, but it was in New York or Washington.
No, it's Washington. It's the Natural History Museum.
Okay. And so you went down there, and you were told to stand by the elephant at a certain time, and you would be contacted, and that's all you were told. You were also told, I believe, not to ask any questions.
That's right.
So you were standing there at the elephant in Washington at the Natural History Museum, and what happened?
Well, these two guys came up and presented me cards to read.
They wouldn't talk to you. They just handed you the cards.
They had these cards all prepared and said, more or less, do what we say on these cards. And but they were almost identical twins. My first perception of them, they looked exactly alike. Anyhow, I did what they said, and that's how it started. The original impetus for this came from a quite highly placed person in Washington who said that somebody would call me, and somebody did, and I was invited. And I didn't like this idea, but they offered me money. And I wasn't getting very much. There's not a lot of money to be had in psychic research, and even at SRI, I didn't get much money at all. So they offered me money, so I went.
All right, well enough. We'll stop right there and come back and pick it up in just a couple of minutes. I'm Jeff Rentz, and my guest, Ingo Swann. And again, his website, which we'll tell you about in just a couple minutes, is where to go to see some of the artwork. The number for the book is 888-453-4046. And this story, again, unfolding in Ingo's book, Penetration, the question of extraterrestrial and human telepathy, 888-453-4046. So we are in the museum. I'm going to read just a little bit from the book to give you an idea of the atmosphere that Ingo creates with his words. Assuming I was supposed to act like any other tourist, at noon I was standing in front of the giant elephant pretending to have interest in it. Behind me, a voice spoke. Mr. Swann? I turned and immediately was handed a card which read, "Please do not speak or ask any questions. This is for our safety as well as yours." If I had not been convinced before that I was getting into something suspicious, I was now certain of it. For the guy who handed me the card stared at me with burning green eyes, which clearly indicated he meant business, and I didn't dare speak. He was young and looked like he could have passed for a Marine recruitment poster, which is to say he was masculine and military. I sensed he was serious and that his complacency concealed an ability to kill very quickly. But even more astonishing was the fact that there were two of them, which, as far as I could tell, were twins. Dozens of museum visitors were flowing all around us. After reading the card, I blinked. The first guy pulled out a photograph, which I could see was of me. He studiously compared the photograph face to mine. He then took my hand as if he were shaking it and compared the tattoo on it to another photograph, the tattoo I had gotten as a result of a rather drunken desire in 1962. He then nodded to his duplicate, who had been watching the rotunda in a professional way, and this twin came over and repeated the sequence. They then both initialed what seemed to be a kind of check sheet in a small address booklet. All this took place in a few moments, and none of the spectators passing to and fro around the elephant seemed to notice. The first twin nodded and indicated the main door to the museum. I followed with the other twin just behind me. We marched directly to the curb and got into a rather nondescript car, boldly waiting in a no-standing zone. The driver was a woman who, it seemed, deliberately never looked at me. What happened next, Ingo?
They gave me sandwiches Well, we took off, and they gave me sandwiches, and then they put them back over my head.
They put a bag over your head.
Yeah, eventually. You know, I couldn't see where we were going. Anyhow, it's ridiculous. I thought I was being kidnapped by the KGB because we were worried about that kind of thing at that point.
That's right. What year was this exactly?
1975.
75. They kept handing you cards, too.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yes.
One of them said, "Please do not take it personally, but we are required to check your person and clothing for weapons or bugs."
Yes.
"What could I do?" said Ingo. They then proceeded to check everything, even unzipping my pants and peeking briefly into my shorts, after which they both initialed that mysterious check sheet.
Yes.
It's wild.
What?
And they put the bag over your head.
Yes.
All right.
And then we went for somewhere. And then, you know, I felt like I was in a spy movie, and we got on, at some point, on a helicopter and flew for a little while. And then we went somewhere and got in an elevator because it went down into the ground.
Quite a ways?
Some distance, yeah, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
no talking, nothing.
No talking.
Tough to read those cards with a bag over your head, too.
Well, I didn't need any more cards at that point. I mean, I was just being dragged around. Anyhow, I ended up in a room, and then they took the bag off.
And there was Mr. Axelrod.
Mr. Axelrod, yes. Yes, indeed.
And he talked.
Oh, yes, he talked. He says, "We can talk now," or something like that. And we talked and everything.
But as you say in the book, he said, "I can answer no questions as to where you are or what we represent.
That's right.
But beyond that, I am at your complete disposal with regard to anything that pertains to the task ahead." What was the task?
Well, it turned out that he wanted me to, we talked about the Jupiter experiment, remote viewing Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And Harold and I had actually remote viewed the planet Mercury and Mars, too, because NASA had spacecraft going to those places. And so it turned out he wanted me to, he had some locations on the moon, and he wanted me to do that. So I thought that was simple. So I did it.
All right.
It took 2 days or 3 days, I forget how. Right now, I have to look at my own record.
Where you were had a room for you. I guess there was exercise equipment there, whatever kind of food.
Oh, it was a big installation. I thought it was big, but there wasn't anybody else there where I was.
Mm-hmm.
The twins, and they guarded the door, and you know, I mean, I thought it was all just terribly ridiculous.
With all this,
he could have come to New York and with his coordinates, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as much fun. Wouldn't have read as well in the book either. Did the twins? A lot of people think about cloning and so forth. Has that ever been a consideration?
Yes.
Even then.
I mean, this started out to be a simple little remote viewing thing that I was going to get money for, and then it went on to this. I don't even know how to describe it. A series of events that ended up where I just sort of spent 3 months under my bed, scared to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly these two guys were so inexplicable that eventually I thought about cloning and things like that, and the fact that they might be extraterrestrials in disguise or something like that. You know, if you put the whole story together, it's one thing. But when they finally did really speak, one had what I thought was an Australian accent, the other one had a Southern accent, so they weren't exactly alike. In the book, the things that really made them alike was not only that they did look alike, but they moved in tandem alike.
They just uploaded a little different personality into each one of them.
Oh, yes, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I got my money, and, of course...
$1,000 a day.
Yep. And, you know, I got, at the American Society for Research, I got $50 a day. And at SRI, it took SRI 9 months to give me my first paycheck. So, you know, I mean, it was nice to have a little money for doing something.
What was accomplished during the time you spent with Mr. Axelrod and the twins? What were you able to produce?
I produced structures on the moon and people on the moon.
When you say people, what are we talking about?
I think that they were humans.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mr. Axelrod kept slipping in references to telepathy like it was just, oh, by the way, type of thing. I wasn't really interested in it. And I was quite prepared to talk about it, so I told him what I knew about it and things like that. And then it was all over with, and so I found structures on the moon. Harold Sherman and I had found structures on Mars, so it didn't come as a big shock that there could be structures on the moon in terms of our universe where we live, psychics and things like that. And when I got delivered, had the bag put over my head and got delivered back to Washington, I said, well, this was a really difficult way of doing this because I didn't see why he couldn't come to New York, and I could have just done it in New York, Who was to know?
Your sketches of what you saw on the moon are in the book, too? Very interesting.
Well, not the ones that I gave.
Not those, but others.
Axelrod. He took them all.
These are a year earlier, I believe, in the book, 1974.
So when I got back after 2-3 months, I thought, I'll just redraw these sort of as I thought I remembered, and then I did that, and I put them in an envelope. Was prepared to forget about it. I thought maybe someday somebody will go to the moon and find structures there, and then I can compare them.
Uh-huh.
The feedback. You've got to have feedback.
Got to have feedback. And you weren't going to get it from Mr. Axelrod. Did he seem pleased with what you presented him, or did he show any emotion at all?
No, he was a cool cucumber. He didn't show any emotion then. It was later on that he showed emotion.
I remember. We'll get to that. And,
oh dear.
Yeah, well, exactly. And when you hear, folks, what's coming up, a lot of you who listen intently to these stories of all sorts of strange craft sightings and behavior. This will make sense.
By the way, the important thing, he asked me a gentleman's agreement to agree not to tell about this for 10 years. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the time frame on it. Was it 10? That was 24 years ago, and he asked for 10 years. Mm-hmm. All right, back in New York.
After the whole story was over with, I was glad to forget about it forever.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Well, the obvious question is why bring it out in a book now?
Well, actually, in 1991, I was thinking about it more and more, and I found it was getting a little hard to remember, so I decided to write it down. I'm getting old, and, my synapses are doing the expected downward curve in terms of self-destruction. So I just thought I'd write it down, so I did. And my agent read it. I showed it to her at the time, my literary agent.
And she flipped.
Well, yes. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it turned, I thought, well, when she tried to sell it, she thought it would be a sure thing, and everybody turned it down. And to me, that's like being blackballed by the CIA, or something like that. And that irritated me. And anyhow, it's been sitting around here for a long time, and I finally decided I'm going to publish it. I'm going to publish all the books that the major publishers have turned down. I have a number of them.
And this is one auspicious beginning. 1-888-453-4046. That's 888-453-4046 for Ingo Swann's book, Penetration, the question of extraterrestrial and human telepathy, a true story, and one of the great books of the year. Ingo, hang on. We're going to take our break here at the top of the hour and come back in about 7 minutes and carry on with the story. Your phone calls will be welcome here as we get into the second hour a little bit later. So do call and get in line if you'd like to. Talk to this legendary figure. 1-888 on radio is our number, and we'll be back with more in a few minutes. And welcome back. That phone number again to get Ingo Swann's book is 888-453-4046. This is a must one. do get this book. 888-453-4046. Operator standing by right now. What's the price, Ingo?
Unfortunately, getting into self-publishing, it has to be $18.95 plus shipping and handling.
I know that.
And it's 219 pages.
Yeah. And we're giving you just a thumbnail sketch of some of the events in the book. Believe me, it's remarkable. biomindsuperpowers.com is the website.
Actually, you can get the book through the website, too. There's a click here someplace.
Mm-hmm.
Get right to the order fulfillment house.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You mentioned something last hour that was interesting. We talked about validation being essential to remote viewing. Without validation, what do you have?
Feedback.
That's right. You said some have forgotten about that.
Well, remote viewing was designed always on the principle that feedback would be available somehow, some way, at some point, you know. And when you seize upon the term remote viewing to remote view things where there's never, ever going to be any feedback.
What is it?
You don't know, you know. It's just, it falls into the category of, there's a scientific term for it. You can't disprove it and you can't prove it either way. And, I mean, that's fine for, I guess, fun and games. It's quite conceivable that some information is being gotten. But if you're interested in practical applications of remote viewing, there's no feedback, so you don't know what you've got. And actually, Dr. Schmeiler and Dr. Osis and Dr. Janet Mitchell and I sort of got the term remote viewing up to describe a kind of experiment where there was feedback using sites that were some distance away. So it was always conceived as a feedback experiment. And that was the glamour of it. I mean, early people, the media even recognized the importance of feedback. So now remote viewing's gone into the English language, and it's being used as I don't know, it's just being used everywhere without the feedback. Many times without the feedback context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to move ahead in this narrative a little bit. Then we're going to get to, again, a particularly remarkable section. There was an event in Los Angeles. In fact, that's the chapter title of Chapter 7, The Event in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I wanted to call it, I actually had the event in La La Land.
Well, we don't want to offend anyone in Southern Cal now.
Well, I mean, Los Angelinos call it La La Land.
Yeah, they do. They call it other things, too. This is wild. The Twins again, and this time they're playing Men in Black.
You want me to
please
brief this little thing?
Yeah, just a little sketch of it.
I was in Los Angeles doing some developmental work, and I was staying with a friend, and I wanted to have Dr. Shafiga Kargula and her co-worker over to dinner because she was a renowned scientist in perceptions, but she was also an expert in conspiracies. And I figured that I had to get her over to my friend's house so we could ply them with liquor, so she'd tell me everything that she knew about conspiracies. So they accepted, and we had to go to this big supermarket to buy food, and I had prepared a special menu and everything like this, and my friend went one way to get the meats, and I went over I wanted to have stuffed artichokes. So I went into the vegetable place, and in California, this is always a big section of it.
You bet.
And I finally found the artichokes, and there was this woman examining these artichokes, which had maybe 3 square inches of clothing on her is what it sort of amounted to, and she was gorgeous, dark glasses and big high heels and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just sort of sidled up to almost next to her and was going to examine these artichokes and other things that were in the periphery of my vision,
Yes, well said, Ingo, yes.
And I got this strangest feeling, all of my hairs on my arms stood up and things like this, and I was trying to deal with this, and it just dawned on me that this woman was an extraterrestrial. And I was thinking of this, and I sort of looked I got a little past her, and who's standing down by some orange crates or something like that? I don't know, but what are these twins dressed in black, you know? And I was so scared I didn't know what to do, because they were watching her. He was watching her, and I thought, I think I shouldn't be here. And so I turned to leave, and as I turned, I saw the other twin at the other end of this vegetable market thing. And I was one confused hombre by that time. So I skedaddled and went and hid in the bread department. And then my friend came, and we did the other shopping, and we went out and got in the car, and he had this little convertible car. And I said, wait a minute here, I want you to see this gal that's coming out. Is it going to come out here in a minute? So we waited, and she came out pushing her car full of, some guy was pushing it, I don't know. I said, what do you think of that gal over there? And my friend looked at her, and she said, oh, that's just an extraterrestrial. There's lots of them in Los Angeles.
It was a funny one.
And my anchor points, my reality factors, absolutely bit the pavement about that point.
Very funny.
And anyhow,
did you have a real sense that this woman was, in fact, not one of us?
Yes.
I mean, no, quite. You just knew it. I mean, that was
I just knew it. You know, if you're psychic, you know things. You know, and I would have been prepared to doubt that completely. Of course, you know, go home and throw this dinner party and get drunk and forget about it. Except for these two guys were there, and I says, "Holy!" Oh, I'm not supposed to use that word. So.
Yeah, holy fertilizer.
Holy fertilizer. And I'm not sure the dinner turned out really well, but
you had to be just shaken.
I shake right now when I think of this, because you know the body and the mind has memories, and it was so unnerving.
Did the twins exhibit any eye contact with you? Did they?
Yes. Well, everybody had dark glasses on. Even they wear dark glasses in La La Land. And but I could see them looking at me, and they were like, "What's the holy fertilizer are you doing here?" And
now this can't have been simple coincidence.
No, this was not coincidence.
So what are we to think here? That the three of them were together to see how you'd react, or something like that? Do you have any?
They couldn't have known I was going to go to this grocery store. No, we decided this all on the spur of the moment.
All right.
And took off to get this food, you know.
I got that.
Actually, my friend was heading toward another store, and I said, well, you know, we really need good meat. So he turned and went to this big one. It's the big one. It's still there, I think, in Hollywood. You know? And other people, experts, have said this was sort of rigged or something like that and everything, but I don't see how that can be. Because it took place too fast.
Wow.
Anyhow, she was an extraterrestrial.
Probably still is.
And a hybrid, I don't know.
Were you going to say hybrid?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but she was extraterrestrial.
She's from the planet 10.
I don't know where she was from.
She looked pretty good, right?
Huh?
She looked pretty good.
Oh, she looked wonderful.
That's what I mean by the planet 10.
I mean, what planet is this?
Planet 10. You know, when a girl is good looking, you give her a 10, Ingo?
Oh.
On the scale of 10?
Oh, on a scale of 10. Oh, no, I think 100. I mean, we're going to get above a 10 here. I mean,
off the charts, folks.
This was something, you know.
Yes, all right, that sums it up. A strange one indeed in Los Angeles, the encounter. You fled back to New York with something you'll never forget. Have you ever seen any woman like that since? Another woman anywhere?
No.
Even in the movies?
No.
Have you ever tried to paint her?
Well, it would look really. I mean, you know, there's a couple artists who do these kind of paintings, you know, with this big here and big there, and you know, very little clothes and everything. That's what it would look like. It's a feeling that you can't get into that kind of painting. The feeling was, well, it was what it was. You know.
Did she look at you while she was
No.
thumbing through the artichokes? No?
No. No, in fact, that way, I knew I was going to hear from Mr. Axelrod, and I did in a very strange way, but we won't go into that. That's in the book. The way this now developed from this point on really did impress me about the facilities that this guys had at their disposal. This is incredible. You know?
And this is, again, 25 years ago.
Yes.
We talk at great length on this program about how the technology accessible and available to these deep black programs is so far beyond...
you only have to go see that movie. What is it? It slipped my mind now.
Enemy of the State?
Enemy of the State.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the state of the art in 1985, as far as I knew back then. But in the 70s, they had it too. You want me to continue, or do you want to continue?
Well, we can go on up to the next level here, and we have to do the event in the Great Northwest. We got to do that.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah, that's an amazing one, unforgettable.
By the way, your background music is wonderful.
Philip Glass.
Is that Glass?
That's Glass. CD.
Really?
Yeah, the CD is entitled Mishima, Mishima, and we'll be right back. All right, the next events in the book are among, again, they're unforgettable, they're remarkable. Among the most vivid I've read in a long time. A couple pages in here just rivet the mind. The chapter is called Seeing One, and take us to that if you can, Ingo. I'm going to read a little bit of your description.
Well, we have to show where the telepathy aspect entered in here.
Sure.
I did talk with, after this, I got back to New York. I did talk about this with Mr. Axelrod.
How did you get in touch with him?
Oh, you have to read this. This is so complicated and amazing. I mean, it's so amazing. It's embarrassing to talk about it. Even I can write it down and not have to face people.
Well, people listening might wonder how you dialed this guy up. He's
No. I got messages to go to Grand Central Station and led to a phone booth and blah 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 and so forth and so on. And he was really concerned, Mr. Axelrod, if this woman had looked at me or had known that I was there, and did she have any telepathic contact with me? And you know, this is when I began to put this whole issue together. That, you know, he'd been so cagey earlier on about his interest in telepathy, and now he was frantic, you know, and worried about me. That the implication was that she could have telepathed me into ozone if she wanted to, or something like that, you know. And you know, didn't fall off the watermelon truck yesterday, and I said that dirty dog has been interested in telepathy all along, and it means that they know there's stuff on the moon. And the real problem is telepathy of these, whatever they are. And that's when the telepathy angle came.
Hence the name of the book, Penetration.
Yes, yes, penetration by telepathy or remote viewing or whatever. Anyhow, I'm breathless.
These guys, Axelrod and the twins, representing obviously a layer that is impenetrably deep in our government, no paper trail, no nothing. And you were aware at that point that they were, I guess, I don't know if I should use the word scared.
I was aware at that point that they had a problem.
They had a problem. They were damn concerned about something, if not outright afraid.
Yep.
And that turns out to be there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Yeah, it turned out, in my estimation, through the years, I've had a lot of time to think this through and to do my background work on telepathy and things like that, and their problem was telepathy. No secret.
And remains so to this day.
I think so, yeah.
So, Mr. Axelrod prevailed upon you one more time to do something by way of an offer. Yeah. Would you like to see one? And you said,
yes. At this point, why not?
In the 90s, they would just say DUH.
What does that mean?
Duh.
Duh. Oh, okay.
That's how people have evolved to this time. They wouldn't say yes, thank you, or wow. They just say, duh. So
when you said it, I thought I was going to be taken to some, captured UFO that had crashed on Earth or something.
Right, or wreckage or something, yeah.
Something like that, I mean, so that seemed sensible enough anyway.
Were you, how did you feel when he said that? I mean, what emotions went through you? Do you remember? You were going to get to see something that few people ever do.
Well, I mean...
Did you suspect there was more to it than just taking Ingo for a nice sightseeing tour?
These whole 20 years, beginning in 1970 up through 1988 and 89, so much that was so out of the ordinary went on, that in a certain sense, this was what I did every day for a living. Plus all of the many trials and experiments and things like that, but this was going on in various ways all the time, so just to go see a captured UFO or something like that, it didn't seem, I mean, everybody thought that they were existing someplace.
So this comes on the heels of you having seen an ET.
Well, I can't put the whole story together even to this day, I mean, I finally told Axelrod to get lost because I didn't think that my brain could take much more after this.
Well, I'm with you on that.
It did not turn out to be a wrecked UFO, no.
No, it was wilder than that. Again, taken to...
well, I mean, this occurred at SRI. It started there and got in a thing and went out to the airport and got in a private plane.
Like a Learjet kind of a thing.
Yeah, but just a bit more than that. I had been in Learjets already, and this one was bigger. But it was like that,
And accompanied by, ladies and gentlemen...
Twins.
There they are, the twins.
The twins.
And guess what the twins are doing this time? They're flying the aircraft.
Were they?
Yes. You read the book. It's in there.
I forgot that in a way. I mean, because when I think of that whole sequence, it goes to the thing,
Yeah. Well, they piloted the plane. You were with Mr. Axelrod, and you were in the plane about, you figured 5 hours. And I think he told you were going to be driving from that point on for a couple of hours. You didn't know where you were going, but when you got there, you landed in pitch black night conditions, no lights out the windows, no lights on the ground, in a jet landing somewhere in pitch blackness. Now, how did they do that, Ingo, in 1970?
I have no idea. I don't know how any of this happened, just to be honest with you. I don't know.
So you got there. They landed. The twins landed you safely. You got out of the plane, got into a vehicle, drove, and then got out of the vehicle. And I guess you were told you were going to walk for about 40 minutes. And we're going to pause and let our listeners think about that. And wait till you see where we're going with this one, folks. In just a couple minutes. The number again for Ingo's book: 888-453-4046. 888-453-4046, the book Penetration by Ingo Swann.
It was a peaceful Colorado camping trip until Dale Musser
awoke to find my tent completely filled with blue light. And my very first thought was, they're back.
Listeners were shocked when Dale Musser told Jeff Rentz the stories of his lifelong encounters with aliens. But most frightening were the actual abductions themselves.
I could hear a sound on the outside of the tent, like something was brushing up against the tent, and I can see these hand-like impressions pushing against the cloth of my tent, and I'm swatting at the wall of the tent trying to get it to go away.
Now you can relive these incredible stories in a 2-hour cassette recording of this memorable Jeff Rentz program. Have your credit card ready and call 888-456-4340 toll-free. You'll also receive the current catalog of hundreds of programs now available. Call 888-456-4340 now.
The fellow who was with me, I hear him screaming from his tent. I was in an absolute state of total terror, and the last thought that I have, I'm staring at the door of my tent, and I'm thinking, I hope those little bastards can't find the zipper.
Ask for the Dale Musser tape.
This is the end of side 1 of the cassette. Please stop the tape, turn the cassette over, and continue with side 2.
Now, let's rejoin Jeff and his guest.
All of this travel is happening again at night, pitch black, and after a 2-hour drive. Well, there's so many things in this book I'm just going past that are fascinating. The vehicle itself, apparently, how do we describe this, Ingo? You're driving along, and the idea, of course, is to be very quiet. You were told you must be quiet, you must not make any noise. And the vehicle you're in didn't make any noise.
I know.
I'm sorry to bring this up, but it's in the book. It's bizarre.
Yes, it's bizarre. Yes.
How can a car not make any noise?
I don't know.
It stopped making noise, and the twins are at the controls of the car, driving it. One of them is.
Well, so somebody has equipment that we don't know about. That's all.
They sure do.
You know. Anyhow, I know it sounds completely ridiculous. The whole story sounds completely ridiculous, but there it is.
Well, you're under a 10-year stricture at this time, not to talk about that. 10 years is long past, yes. And you have brought this forward. And again, if you have been with us from the beginning of the program, you understand who Ingo Swann is a bit, and you also understand that only someone like him, I think, would have experiences like this in a book. It's just amazing.
Well,
the issue of... Go ahead.
Other people have had experience.
Well, not quite in this. This one got me. This one got me. Let me read one more. This is the last I'm going to read to everybody, but I want to read this one little 2-page segment about what happened when you got to where you're going. I'm not going to give you the whole story, but just some of it. I couldn't see anything at all, save the narrowest dark blue-green glimmer of dawn in the east. I whispered back to Axelrod, "What am I supposed to do?" "Just observe. We'll debrief later," he responded. But it's really important now to observe complete silence from this point on, and do not move unless I tell you to. They detect heat, noise, and motion like mad. So I was silent. There we were, 4 of us sitting silently like rocks ourselves. But suddenly the 2 twins gave some kind of hand signal. "It's begun," Axel whispered. "Please, please do not make any noise, and do not move unless we tell you to." My eyeballs rolled around trying to perceive what had begun. I couldn't see anything unusual at all, save for what appeared to be some gray fog forming up in the direction of the lake. I thought it was just morning fog coming up. This fog continued forming for about 5 minutes, and suddenly I saw what had begun. For in a moment's eye flicker, the gray fog changed, first into luminous neon blue and then into angry purple. At that point, Axel and one of the twins put a firm hand on each of my shoulders, and it was a good thing they did. A network of purple, red, and yellow lightning bolts shot in all crazy directions through the cloud, and I would have jumped up if not held down. And then there it was, somewhat transparent at first, but in the next second, as if fading up, like the movie term, out of nowhere, there it was, solidly visible over the lake, whose reflecting waters I could now clearly see, and it was getting bigger. I don't really know what I expected, but I had assumed that what I would see, if anything, would be something like a flying saucer. No chance of a saucer here, baby, because it was triangular and its top angle sort of inverted in pulses, so that overall it appeared to be diamond-shaped. At that moment, in my astonishment, we could hear a wind coming, and it moved past us like a tangible magnetic field, rustling the pine needles and pine trees all around us so much that some cones and branches fell on us. The 2 firm hands on my shoulders tightened, warning me not to move in pure physical reaction. At the same time, ruby-red laser-like beams began shooting out from the thing, which incredibly was now growing even more in size, while still stationary in its original position over the lake. One of the twins now talked softly, although the sound of his voice was like thunder to me. "Crap, they're enveloping the area. They're going to spot us." I had no time to wonder about what he meant. Indeed, some of the laser beams had begun blasting pine trees, of all things. At the same time, the thing had now increased its size to what may have been about 90 feet wide. The whole of this so far had been accomplished in complete silence, and even the electric bolts had not crackled. The blasting of the trees, though, was now audible, while at the same time I could begin to hear low-frequency pulsations. They're blasting deer or porcupines or something in the forest, Axel explained softly in a calm but tense stage whisper. The beams sense biological body heat, and they're sure to hone in on us. At that moment, the two hands tightened on my shoulders, and I was dragged and practically thrown back down the arroyo behind. There was a terrific pop where we had just been, and some large branches of nearby pines cascaded down upon us. That was my last sight of the triangular thing, but in that last moment, I could see the water of the lake surging upward, like a waterfall going upward, as if being sucked up into the machine. And we'll stop there. There's much more. It is quite a story, and I think you get the picture.
Like me throwing up in the river not too long after this.
3 times.
Oh, after this book had gone to the printer, I heard about all of the water fairies that have been appearing in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And just last week, somebody made me a copy of a video that one of their broadcasting systems had prepared that created these scenes again of these. Theirs were round and like stainless steel, but they came and sucked up the water from lakes. And I wish I'd have had this before I got this book printed, so I could have put it in.
Well, then the next edition you can.
Yeah, okay.
1-888-453-4046 for the book Penetration. It is a page-turner, and we are going to talk about many more things tonight. The moon, what's apparently up there, is a lot more than rocks and dust and craters, and that's all spelled. Pardon me?
That's part 2 of the book.
That's right. Now we move into that, and then part 3, the issue of telepathy and our visitors or neighbors. Hard to know.
Like Charles Fort said once, he says, I think we're property, which takes on some meaning. If you read this in other books, I'm not the only one that, I do provide a bibliography of sources of other people who've done a pretty good job on the inhabited moon type of thing, and
sure.
the cover-up about it.
Many people have been able to see things on the moon with basically powerful home telescopes over the years. Celestrons, 600 power, is it? Can do it?
Well,
something like that.
You can see things vaguely. Some has to be a mile big to be seen.
And there are apparently things that big up there moving around. We're going to pause, and your calls are welcome, 1-888 on radio. We've given you a real tease of this book called Penetration by Ingo Swann, and we'll be right back. And there was much more to that incident at a lake up in what apparently was Alaska. And you knew it was Alaska when you drove out of there. You suffered an injury in that, by the way, to your leg, which we mentioned. You were bleeding. And the idea apparently is that these craft, whatever they are, neutralize all biologic entities in the immediate vicinity, I guess, so there are no witnesses?
I guess so. That one didn't want to be seen by anybody, so, overkill of anything that's got infrared vibes, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah. Any evidence that you've come across where humans may have been French fried during ET events?
Well, you don't see it much anymore, but, tabloids like the National Enquirer used to run stories on people who touched flying saucers and got fried and things like that.
The interesting thing about the tabs is that there actually is some important news in them from time to time. They're used to float things, and it's not all garbage.
No, Men in Black, if you saw that movie.
Yeah.
Did you see that movie?
Yeah, I did. I don't go to many films, but that was a very enjoyable film, and there certainly were a lot of nuggets in there that were significant. How did you react to that, by the way, now that you brought it up?
Well, I thought it was, I didn't know how they could pull this off, but they pulled it off, and my mouth was hanging out because it became temporarily so real. They suspended the disbelief of the audience and things like that, and you just went with it,
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt very much that the ETs are giant cockroaches.
Mm-hmm.
Even this isn't real to me,
but quite a piece of escapism, to be sure. Waiting for the sequel, which will no doubt be as big a box office as the first one. By the way, just about movies for a minute or two. You may go to films a lot. You live in New York. I don't know. What other films have you seen that would have more truth than fiction, or at least substantial pieces in them that are worth considering along this vein? Science fiction
I think Close Encounters of the Third Kind has a reality basis. There's all these rumors in the gossip lines that contact was made
mm-hmm.
with humans at some point and so forth and so on. It's really hard to track down anything that is substantial about it. But certainly that, as far as I'm concerned, there's the evidence that there are structures and activities on the moon is really compelling. And the fact that we haven't gone back to it since we apparently were told to stay away back in the 60s.
No, that story's been around there. You tend to give a little bit of credibility to that, that we were told to stay in your own backyard, don't mess out here.
Yes. Why we didn't go back really is an issue that needs to be examined.
Mm-hmm.
The full intent, as I later found out, I wasn't up on the space race back then, but I got up somewhat up to date,
Uh-huh.
The whole intent was to colonize the moon, to act as a space station for going to other places.
That's right.
And that was just dumped.
Real quickly, without ceremony, it just came off the stove, not the back burner, folks. It came off the stove altogether.
And that needs to be looked at. I don't know how to have it looked at, but it certainly needs to be looked at.
Ingo, hold that receiver closer to your talking.
I'm sorry.
You're fading a little bit in and out. I don't know if it's the line or the phone. But, yeah, it's very true. It's a very perplexing question. Always bothered me why the whole space program just took its eyes off the moon, basically. Now we've got the new lunar...
The Soviets did, too.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there are some people who suggest that, in some cases at least, those Apollo missions did not take place. They were staged, big sound stage, wherever. Some suggest underwater in large tanks to duplicate the moon's gravity. Any instinct on that? Could some of those missions, part of them, perhaps been staged?
That was a hypothesis in another movie. I think it was called Saturn IX or something like that.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that there was the evidence is just too compelling that there was the Soviets and the United States made a very big and a very expensive effort to get to the moon and colonize it. I mean, I think they did get to the moon. Certainly, the Ranger things that were sent up there to take photographs before they crashed on the moon were real.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's no reason to think those weren't real. And then they were followed up by the by actual men going to the moon.
Mm-hmm. Some suggest that maybe the later missions they were already in the pipeline, and rather than just scrub them, might have been possibly staged, at least in terms of what the media was disseminating to the public, because that stay away signal might have been issued prior to the end of the actual train of Apollo missions. All spec, of course. Have you RV'd the moon lately, Ingo? Do you still look around up there from time to time?
I'm concerned about telepathic contact with an ET.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm serious. I mean, this is. I now have a background in this which was frightening. And I just don't particularly. I don't want to do it by myself. I mean,
I think the gist of what you're saying is we may be being interfered with, controlled, manipulated, managed telepathically, read. These people that you worked with 24 years ago were afraid. Do you have any reason to suspect that that fear continues to this day, to that extent? Have things changed any?
Well, if the scenario, I present this just as a scenario. I'm not presenting it as a complete reality, but the scenario needs to be examined. And if those guys had this problem back then, which he did, Axelrod, I mean, this was a problem. That problem still exists today. To this day, it hasn't been resolved. In fact, it's very suspicious that it's never been talked about, especially when you consider that most of the abductees say that they were communicated with telepathically.
Every time.
And this term, this aspect of the abductees is completely avoided. I mean, nobody makes an issue of that. They just pass over it.
Well, it's more or less accepted as de rigueur. It's the way it's done, telepathic.
But nobody examines the telepathic, the implications of this.
Well, that's what you've done in this book called Penetration.
I tried to.
You have done magnificently. By the way, the dedication of the book, this book is dedicated to Mr. Axelrod, wherever and whoever he is.
Yeah.
Well done. Paul in San Jose would like to step up here and say something, listening on the Internet, Real Audio. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi.
Hi, Indigo. I have a question. By the
Ingo.
way,
Ingo.
Sorry, Ingo.
Hi.
I've read the book, and my question is, after you're preparing the book and getting ready to go to the printer, did you get any inclination about what's going on up there on the moon again?
No. Well, there's been a little diddling around, but this is sort of a different approach to it all and things like that.
On whose part?
Well, it needs to be gotten together and presented in somewhat of a feasible way.
Just for the record, Paul, as you know, Ingo, the U.S. Navy sent Clementine up there to literally map the entire moon, which is an interesting thing.
Well, I know that, but the issue involved with Clementine is that it was completely... If you have seen Enemy of the State, you realize the high-resolution photography capability these days.
Yep.
Right, and I'm in Silicon Valley.
Hold on, Paul. Go ahead.
There's no high-resolution photography ever been released from the Clementine mission. So
low res, and that's right. That's very well said. Okay, Paul, one more comment.
I used to live in the mountains up here in Los Gatos, which is just outside of Silicon Valley. And when I read the book, one of the things I was struck by is the comment about the availability of telescopes larger than 16 inches. And I've actually been considering trying to get some people together and put an array up, because Mount Hamilton is right across from us. Yeah, so it used to be an ideal observation area, and if you move a little bit more towards Santa Cruz, you can still see up there. And I'm wondering, if we do this, is there a good chance we'll observe something? That's why I asked the question.
Well, there's a network of people who are very interested in the occupied moon, and they have used telescopes. But 16 inches isn't going to be high enough resolution to see details smaller than a mile or 3 football fields or something like that. But you can get it. You can certainly see things like lights and stuff moving in the. You can probably see the clouds, a few things like that.
Yeah, people are saying clouds. Yes, clouds we talked about in the book. Clouds hanging out along the rims of some of the larger craters.
These are referred to as the anomalies of the moon.
Right. I remember reading about a Japanese researcher which had recorded very large flashes on the moon with, I think, a 14-inch telescope.
Yes. Yeah, you can see those because they are not reflected light; they're issuing light. So those you can see those easy with even an 8-inch if it's a good one. But to see details like a football field, you're going to need maybe a 60-inch one, and these are really impossible to come by.
Right. We have so much surplus technology in this particular area. I was considering looking for something like a CCD array or a 20-inch optical array, maybe 20 inches.
I love it. Go do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I really love your show, Jeff. And
Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm glad you read the book. For those of you out there, here's the number again, 888-453-4046. One of the great books of the year. That's 888-453-4046. Things in this book that I have not seen so succinctly stated anywhere else. Going to pause and come right back. Another hour, hour number 3 with Ingo Swann. Your calls are welcome if you'd like to get on the phone with us here. You just pick it up and dial 1-888-ON-RADIO, and we'll probably get you in. We've got lines open right now. That's 888-ON-RADIO. Don't forget to visit my website at sightings.com. Thanks to you, we're about 4 million total hits a month now and growing. And we'll pause and see you in about 7 minutes. All right, hour number 3. My guest, Ingo Swann, his book, Penetration, The Question of Extraterrestrial and Human Telepathy. And it's a profoundly important question, which takes up all the third part of the book. The second part dealing with the moon, which is a far, far more interesting place than most Americans have come to accept in the years since the Apollo missions were ended. Kurt is on the line from, I believe, Portland, listening on KOTK. Hi, Kurt. Your question, please.
Yeah, Mr. Swann, I was wondering if you're familiar with Richard Hoagland's take on structures on the moon, and if so, how close do you think he is to the truth?
Well, once you get the idea that there may be or are structures on the moon, how close the details that follow after that are just added to the basic concept. As far as I'm concerned, there are structures on the moon. It would take a lot to change my mind about that. He's much more involved into the details than I can take time to afford to be. So if he says there are structures on the moon and they look like this and that and so forth, that's fine with me.
Do you think that they're glass structures, glass domes?
Oh, yes. Well, there's some there that I think that are just magnetically transparent, and with the constituency of glass. We tend, as I mentioned in the book, we tend to explain the ETs by our Earth-side realities, and so we would have to say they're glass, but they could be some other whatever technological thing that serves the same purpose, but that not necessarily be of glass.
Okay. Well, thanks for your hit on that.
Okay.
Sure, you're welcome. And you said early tonight that in your original remote viewing that you felt we were warned. You felt we'd been warned off, but you earlier said that you remote viewed there were humans up there. Mm-hmm. So who's warning us off? Are those humans us, or are they human forms from elsewhere?
I don't know.
I mean, is it possible that we may have 2 or 3 different echelons on this planet of humans that are doing different things that the others don't know about?
Well, according to Zecharia Sitchin, we were created by the extraterrestrials in their image, something like that. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason to think, I mean, I don't know how to think about it, you know. I mean, I saw what to me were humanoid bodies on the moon. They looked like humans to me, except that they were telepathically aware that I was telepathically there. And we don't, particularly on Earth, have that developed that much to be able to do that. But the anatomy of what it would, the anatomy of what an AT would need, the anatomy they would need is, in some instances, should be quite different, because it's behind the scenes. It's known that our particular anatomy would not survive long excursions in space. Our muscular system breaks down, and our neurological system breaks down. So I guess there are designer bodies depending on what you're going to do. If you're going to fly from here to Arcturus, assuming that it's going to take some time, maybe you'll have a different kind of body. I don't know. again, you know, we tend to picture the ETs as grays or something like that, but maybe, you know, if you've watched Star Trek, you see how many kinds of bodies could be devised to live in various environments.
Sure. You said something interesting a moment ago. Telepathically, they were aware that you were there.
Yes.
Telepathically. What was that like?
That was, I thought I should get out of there. That's what that was like. I think I told Axelrod, I think they know I'm here. And what is it they were sensing, you know? But we do have things like that on Earth, you know. People are aware of being psyched out, you know.
Was it a threatening thing or just a stern get away?
It's just that I was surprised. And if I'm surprised, I'd probably go hide it behind a tree until I figure it out.
They were probably surprised, too?
I think so, yes.
Who is it, Ingo?
I don't know. I truly don't know.
You also talk in the book
I mean, I can speculate, but, you know, I like to let my speculation go only so far.
I understand.
And, I'm, in fact, part of what I have in a way of reputation includes that I don't just go completely out on the limb and start raving, you know. I don't know. But certainly the universe is inhabited, and you don't need SETI to look 300 light years away to find life. You can do it.
Have you ever pondered the issue of how many different life forms may be visiting here?
Yeah.
Different civilizations, different species types, different whatever.
Mm-hmm. But that falls outside of feedback.
Always. Just for fun, though, step across the line. More than one, more than 10?
I don't know.
Is it a busy?
It depends on what you call life to begin with.
Is this a busy venue for other intelligences? This planet?
I think it is, but that's a problem because one wonders why that is. You see, if you think that, then you have to wonder why is it such a busy venue? I mean, why did this ship? That I saw in these ships in Australia? Who needs the water? I mean, what are they doing with the water? And
taking it to the moon, maybe?
Well, now there's known to be water on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's not the right kind of water. I don't know. I mean,
well, water is hydrogen.
Well, it's oxygen too.
Mm-hmm.
Hydrogen is a fuel. I don't know. I suppose oxygen can be made a fuel too. I don't know, but. You see, you reach the edge of your reality system, and then you don't know what to think anymore. So most people retreat back into their reality system, and that's the Earth side difficulty. We can't get outside of our reality systems to think about. Okay, let's look at this from the ET's point of view. Why are they interested in the moon? Why? If they did tell us to go back to Earth and not bother them, why did they do that? You know. And why don't they come here and say hi? You know, let's talk. To all these issues.
Yeah, many people talk about the alleged astronauts' statements that were made concerning anomalous structures and events that occurred and that they witnessed up there.
Mm-hmm.
What's your sense of those? The astronauts, in many cases, have denied those statements. Do you feel that the astronauts saw and experienced up there, or did this stay away notice come by some other means?
I think it had to come about, if the stay away notice actually did take place, then it had to come about in a convincing way. You know, the Earthside military types that are doing this kind of research and so forth, you know, like to take no for an answer easily.
Mm-hmm.
So something significant, there had to be a significant demonstration of some kind,
mm-hmm.
which I think would not have just astronauts' experiences probably wouldn't.
It would also seem logical that the astronauts would have had to have seen, some of them at some point, something odd up there.
Well, one of them has admitted that and is trying to get open book on that. I think isn't that Gordon Cooper or something?
It's something that bears very close scrutiny, and we'll get more, especially in light of your book, which raises all sorts of issues about the moon. Marcus in Seattle would like to step in here and say something. Marcus, listening on, I think, KITZ.
KITZ, 1400, yeah.
Very good. Hi, Marcus.
Hi, fellas. Hey, a question for you. I've been studying this stuff since the 60s and 70s, the abnormalities of the moon. There was a semi-famous amateur astronomer named Fred Steckling that took photos of craters on the moon and concluded that he saw, and I have it in his book, that they were kind of blurry pictures, but pictures.
Has he been cut off?
His cell phone went into a blind and we lost him, but we got the idea. Fred Steckling and his work, Ingo?
Well, I think Fred Steckling used NASA photos. He did certain embellishments in drawings alongside of them, but he made his deductions based upon the photos that he got from NASA before a lot of them were dusted out. That is a good book, and anybody interested in this topic should read that book, in preference even to reading my book, because there's a great deal of information in it. It's mind-boggling, actually. He did a really good job, and I think he's passed away now, but I heard that his son is keeping it in print.
And the book is called We Discovered Alien Bases on the Moon by Fred Steckling, Steckling, published originally by GAF in 1981.
I think one would have to call a book finder like Amazon to find out actually where to order it from.
You also postulate in the book that the moon may not be solid.
Well, that's not my postulate. I mean, there are scientific papers early in the 60s or later in the 60s that present evidence for that. Even Carl Sagan mentioned that.
What would that mean to the average listener, though, Ingo? It's hollow, like a big papier-mâché moon?
It means that it isn't what we've been taught it is. That's what it means.
It means it's an artificial satellite, perhaps. Going to pause?
Come here from somewhere else.
Yep, towed right into orbit, folks. A staging base, perhaps. Who knows? Something going on up there, and we'll be right back. As I mentioned earlier, the U.S. military, the Navy, sent up a satellite, Clementine, and completely mapped the moon with ultra-high resolution cameras, which probably including infrared and UV.
That was in the Times. That was reported.
That's right, 1994, and that means they could take pictures of a pack of cigarettes if there was one laying up there.
That's right.
And what do we see?
I don't know what we see. I haven't seen anything yet.
I mean, we haven't seen much of anything. Some low-resolution pictures, and that's all. William Corliss is mentioned in your book.
Oh, yes.
He broke down the lunar anomalies into 8 major categories. Let me just read them. The moon's orbital anomalies. What about those? What's odd about the moon's orbit?
Well, any number of things. Now, I'm not a professional on this kind of thing. I have to depend on other sources. But it's been established that for a natural satellite, the moon's orbit is not what one would expect in a circumstance.
Lunar geology problems, lunar luminous phenomena.
The ones I like are the ones that fly up out of craters in formation.
We call those luminous phenomena, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, what Ingo just said has been witnessed. The motion of lunar satellites, anomalous telescopic and visual observations, lunar weather, and we mentioned clouds already, lunar eclipse and occultation phenomena, the enigma of lunar magnetism, all sorts of strange things up there. If the moon were towed into location as an observation platform, whatever, that wouldn't surprise people who are familiar with Velikovsky and others who talk about dynamic changes in our solar system, planetary in sense. I'm wondering. Go ahead.
It doesn't necessarily need to be towed.
Well, I use the term loosely.
Maybe it can drive itself where it wants to go. I don't know.
Could be it's right, a U-drive.
There's a big thing circling the sun at the moment, which got some media display for a little while and then disappeared from view. But every once in a while, something starts circling the sun that's big enough to see, and that means it's quite huge.
Do we think mining going on up there? What does your RV tell you? Just habitation, R&D, staging. Any sense on that?
Well, George Leonard produced this wonderful book, which has a lot to do with mining, and other people. There's a guy out in Pittsburgh or someplace that's been watching the moon for 20 years, and the consensus of these kind of people comes down to mining of some kind. Although I don't know why the moon needs to be mined, but then I don't know what UFOs need with Earthside water either. I mean, you get to the point where none of it really makes sense.
In Jacksonville, let's go down and say hello to Grant, listening on WJGR. Hello, Grant. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Mr. Swann, I was wondering, with your capacity as a psychic, are you able to access the Akashic records?
Yes, but there's no feedback. I mean, one can think one can access Akashic records, but then there's the problem of feedback.
What do you mean by feedback?
Validation.
Proving that your access was veridical, let's put it that way.
Oh. So you wouldn't know them if you looked at them. You wouldn't be able...
Couldn't confirm their existence or the information in them other than what his senses tell him.
Well, in physics, there's a perfectly good hypothesis for the existence of something akin to the Akashic records. If you say all information is available at all times, that's information theory. All you have to do is figure out how to get to the particular address of the information that you want.
Exactly, but have you yourself ever witnessed anything or beheld anything that you thought might be the Akashic record?
I tend to think in information theory, not Akashic records.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Grant. In other words, all available right now, like a computer, and we just tap into it.
But the formal definition of Akasha from India is almost consistent with modern information theory. If information exists as a thing in itself, then it should be available at all times, no matter when it occurred. The conventional thing of the Akashic records is that it's a record of what has happened in the past.
It's like going to a library, that's right.
Going to a library, but that cannot have been the intent of the word Akasha. In Sanskrit, it is more like information, and in fact, that's consistent with other Sanskrit terms too, which are apparently dealing with information accessibility. And in that sense, if Akasha is defined that way, then that's consistent with modern information theory and modern physics expectations too.
The book is Penetration: The Question of Extraterrestrial and Human Telepathy. The author, Ingo Swann, my guest, and you can get this book, 1-888-453-4046. It's 888-453-4046. Ingo has a website. Haven't mentioned this in a while. Let me get this in before we break. It is simply www.biomindsuperpowers. That's all one string there, biomindsuperpowers.com. So check it out. Lots of information on remote viewing there, and you can also order the book through the website. Did you see the movie 2001? Of course you did.
Of course.
What did you think?
Actually, at that point, I liked my realities to stay in a sequential place, a program or something like that. Right. But as you get deeper and deeper into what we call psychic stuff, and multidimensionality, actually has to become something that's considered as a various kind of issues. And that was a movie about multidimensionality.
And more people are leaning that way now in the popular UFO community to explain some of the amazing things that are going on here. We're going to pause and come right back with Ingo Swann. Our lines are open, 1-888-ON-RADIO, if you should like to call in and ask a question of this legend who is with us tonight for 3 hours. Okay, our last half hour with Ingo Swann. If you want to call in, it's 888-ON-RADIO. What do you feel about, this is again spec, the agenda of certain alien groups about this abduction phenomenon? And you mentioned earlier in terms of telepathy. What are they up to, Ingo? Have you tried to come, again, we have no validation verification, but what have you tried to do in that regard, if anything?
I haven't tried to do very much. There are certain things that would have to be done in order to be able to do something along those lines. Categorize the types of abductions, which in a really precise way has never been done. I mean, people are more involved with the emotional impact upon the Earthsiders, and but if let us say that abductions are real phenomena, then there are several kinds of them, and there's several purposes involved. The one that seems to come up the most is, what are they doing with our genetic materials, which seems to be one of the issues involved. You know?
Mm-hmm.
But there could be other issues too. I don't know.
There are a lot of people carrying a lot of grief and trauma around from these events.
Oh yes, I can thoroughly understand that. I'm carrying grief and trauma from this event that took place 27 years ago. I mean, my eyes get big, etc. There's a lot of emotional impact.
Wow. All right, on the telephone, wanting to say hello and ask a question is Sky, calling from Santa Barbara, listening on the net. Hi, Sky. Welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Ingo.
Hello.
How synchronous, Jeff. You brought up the issue of abductions, because that's what I was going to bring up. You know, back to the thing about telepathy with humans and or aliens, the thing I find interesting is that people who have alien contact or abduction experiences, and I've had that kind of experience, the telepathy with them is completely clear, completely effortless. I mean, that implies some kind of telepathic capacity in humans.
Oh, yes.
And yet, you know, we don't experience that in everyday life. And I mean, I don't know that any of us have the answer to this question, but why would it be so clear with them and then not normally?
This is the point that I've taken pains to try and draw out in my book, that if telepathy exists at all in a living form, in living forms, then it has to be universal, and it has to consist of something else besides language. So it's like images do the trick there, and people are dealing with images, and they put words to the images after the event. There are 13,000 existing major languages on planet Earth, and it seems really quite odd that the ETs would have to learn 13,000 different languages in order to communicate with humans. And the fact is that abductees say that the telepathy is involved, and it's only in a secondary way linguistic. So I got your point. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
You know, are our telepathic abilities being blocked naturally or non-naturally by something going on here? And only when we enter the realm of the ETs is it, you know, liberated or something? I mean, you know, it's an interesting question.
Do they just know how to talk to us telepathically, and other humans really don't have that knowledge and ability yet?
Oh, no. Telepathy, developmental telepathy is being blocked on Earth by Earthside social forces, and probably by the other guys too.
Earthside social forces, that's not to say cultural, that's to say institutional.
Yes, absolutely.
And blocked electromagnetically?
Oh, just blocked. I mean, it's never permitted to develop. In fact, there's a wrong model for it right now, the radio model and things like that. And there's, I mean, There's incontrovertible evidence that psychic research, including telepathy, is not permitted to go very far by Earthside forces themselves.
Scott?
I'm here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I couldn't quite hear well, that was really all I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, he made the point that telepathy on this planet is being blocked, not by a cultural bias, but by an institutional effort of some kind.
I see. Okay. Well, fortunately, that block doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't. That's the fun part of it.
Yeah. Where some of us slip through the cracks. He said the evidence was incontrovertible, that there was an effort underway to do that and to keep the lid on it.
Oh, yes. If you want a conspiracy, there's one for you.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are a lot of people on this planet that wouldn't like the fact that we can go around and discover secrets.
Right.
No more secrets.
I have 2 essays on that in my website.
Oh, good. Good. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. Elizabeth in Vancouver, listening on Hot Talk, KOTK. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Ingo.
Hello.
I wanted to say that I've actually seen one of those water fairies. I'm glad there's a name for it. I almost walked into one dark and windy night, and it was on the ground. It was black. It was sucking up water out of a flooded field, and I had a couple of German shepherds. My friend was with me, and the dogs went crazy. They started jumping into the air and yodeling. It was really amazing.
Isn't this the strangest thing?
Yeah, I'm glad that someone else has actually named it for me now. It makes me feel better.
Water fairy. You don't get any better than that.
Really, water fairies.
A fair F-E-R-R-Y.
Right.
Yes, as in transport. Yeah.
Right.
Water transport.
I had a question. With all the people that are doing do-it-yourself remote viewing and other, trying to perfect their psychic skills, is there any consequence for this particular dimension of reality? I mean, are the walls moving, or do you feel that there's a thinning of the veil, or whatever they want to?
No, I think that the remote viewing is going to be, unless it becomes more highly organized and more precise, is going to be just a glitch of the 20th century.
Just a little anomaly.
Yep.
Well, I have one last question. This has to do with, I think Richard Hoagland has used the word quarantined, that we're quarantined here on Earth. And my thought is that this is the planet of bad religion. I mean, we are, after all, apocalyptics, and we do create apocalyptic weapons, and we have that vision. And I'm wondering if you think that this is the reason that we're being told to stay here.
Oh, well, it could be. I don't make those great jumps. Certainly if we're told to stay away from the moon, then we're told to stay where we belong, and that's on Earth, right? So, I mean, you can read that into it.
Well, the military is making all sorts of rather open statements about trying to militarize space to protect assets, the usual argument.
Well, they're not doing a very good job.
Not so as you'd notice.
Well, my imagination doesn't go in that direction, but anyway, it's a real honor to speak to you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Don't put it that way. Thank
you. It is an honor. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear you saw one.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Bye.
Well, Ingo, that's great to hear. She just about made your day with that.
Well, I mean, water fairies.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, this really, if you ever saw the Australian footage of this show, you get a good idea.
Yeah. Amazing. We got more callers holding. 1-888 on radio is our number. We're going to pause and come right back. Again, the phone number for Ingo's self-published book, 1-888-453-4046, 453-4046. Operator standing by right now. $18.95 is the price. Penetration, the question of extraterrestrial and human telepathy, by Mr. Ingo Swann. All right, Ingo, you've got some kind of a survey underway on your website. You want to talk about that?
Oh, when I got the idea of these unpublished manuscripts sitting around here that publishers wouldn't touch, I decided to float a survey describing them in my website and asking people if I footed the bill to publish them, would anybody buy them? So we got over 3,000 responses, which altogether were very good.
I should say.
For my little website,
Which is www.biomindsuperpowers. It's all one string.
we were going to take the survey down, but it's been getting more responses lately.
Yeah, so. we'll send a bunch of people over there tonight. So it's biomindsuperpowers.com. All one word, biomindsuperpowers.com. Bud is in Hot Springs, Arkansas, listening on the signal of Little Rock 103.7 FM. Hi, Bud. Welcome.
Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Ingo, pleasure.
Yes, sir.
I'm a new listener and stumbled on this program purely by accident. And I must say it's a breath of fresh air to those who question authority sometimes.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
Oh, yes. My question to Ingo is this. Ingo, do you have any idea who is really responsible for the construction of the pyramids?
I would have to make my opinion based upon a trip to the pyramids to psych them out in 1973, which is another strange tale, that they weren't made by Earthlings. These are extraterrestrial constructions. And I have no evidence to back it up. There's no back for that. But
speculation is good. As far as you know, would you have any idea as to the age of those?
Oh, at the time, I think they're pre-flood, and that at least 2 chambers in the Great Pyramid were used as battery storage units of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, go to the internet, listen to my program of January 1st with Christopher Dunn, 3 hours on that basic concept. These were high-tech machines built by people that weren't actually running around at the time we think they were.
Thank you both very much. Enjoy the program, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks very much. That's interesting, Ingo. Thanks for sharing that. There's so many things I could ask. I just can't get to it all tonight. But in the remaining minutes are a number of email messages sitting here that we should try and touch upon. Mr. Swann was once involved with Scientology. His status during this interview was OT7 and Class 6 auditor. I would like to know what influence Scientology has had on his abilities, if any, and mostly how he got away from this group.
Well, actually, Mr. Hubbard's concepts had to do with various aspects of how to increase one's powers of perception, and that was very attractive to me. As to how I got out of it, I just sent in a letter of resignation and walked away.
End of story.
End of story, yes.
Is the government's remote viewing program really dead?
Probably, yes.
So that's a true story, that they just didn't fund it anymore and it's not being carried on in any covert levels as far
as when the Cold War, you see, it only got funded anyway because of the Cold War threat from Russia.
Because of the side gap.
Yes. And then when the Russian Empire went away, there was no threat involved with it, and people went back to business as normal. But there's a new one coming up from China, which is made clearly manifest in Paul Dong's book called Super Psychics of China. And but, you know, authority doesn't do anything unless there's an absolute necessity for doing it, and since there isn't one now in this field, I don't think there's much going on.
Yeah, it's such a low cost, though, it would seem that it wouldn't be out of the question for some...
The cheapest project in the world. I mean, they didn't even have a system to process such low amounts of money.
Well, that's my point. I mean, they talk about funding as being an integral factor in making the decision, and it's really not, because the money's a joke.
Yes.
The Chinese are supposedly scouring their billion people for the best to collect and concentrate this psi ability in units, so to speak.
Yes.
It's an interesting
They're developing it as a form of chi energy, and it's very impressive, some of the stuff coming out of China, but of course it never gets in the American media, so nobody knows about it. And so one should get Paul Dong's book. I reviewed it in my website.
Okay, excellent. So another reason to drop by and say hello to Ingo on the net. The number again for the book is 888-453-4046. We have about 4 minutes left, that's all, and I'd kind of like to turn it over to you and see if you'd like to touch upon anything that I have not gotten to. Well, it's obviously a lot, but anything you want to leave us with tonight?
I think you're a wonderful interviewer.
Oh, thanks.
And one thing I would like to say of my whole career in this field is that the best part of it is not the phenomena have been wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful to look into all this, but the best part is having had the opportunity, excuse me, to work with so many wonderful people.
Including Mr. Axelrod.
Well, he must be wonderful. I didn't get to know him too well, but there have been so many wonderful people involved in all of the work, and in fact, I owe everything to them, and I really want the world to know that.
That's very gracious of you. Well said, and honorably said, and we would expect that, I think, after listening to you for 3 hours tonight. What about this upcoming year, Ingo? It seems to be sliding past us at a very fast rate. A lot of people concerned about Y2K, and boy, the prophets are crawling out from under every imaginable object to stand up and say we only have 3 months left, 6 months left, 12 months left, and so on. Have you taken a peek down the road, and can you give us the world situation geopolitically is not looking real good. What do you see? And I hate to ask you to even venture a guess, but because again there's no validation, but do you have any sense about what times are ahead for us?
Well, I published a book in 1993, but it's one book that the publisher did publish called Your Nostradamus Factor, and the last half of it involves certain of my predictions up through the year 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I did not foresee Y2K, and if it indeed comes about, then I really messed up on that one. I should have seen it. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many. The mixed messages about Y2K are really getting rough, so it's really hard to negotiate your way through them.
True. We've got people with their hand on chemical and biological weapons. We've got rogue states, North Korea, and others building intermediate-range ballistic missiles and threatening to do more.
I did refer to all that.
Yeah.
This is a real threat. If Y2K does take place in some form, it's a good time for land grabbing and nationality scrunching and things like that to take place, because nobody will really be in a state of prepared readiness to do much about it.
So it is, as many have suggested, a perfect venue for a solid solidifying of power and control over a ever wider breadth and depth of this planet.
Yep.
Could be used for all sorts of things. In fact, the issue could it not, artificially induced to some degree to enhance that process?
Well, it's a very rough way to do it.
Better than dropping nuclear bombs, maybe.
Well, yes. I guess you're talking about depopulation, right?
That's been written about by some people allegedly on the inside, and they'd like to see this world population reduced considerably. Yeah. Smaller the herd, the easier the control.
Well, the smaller the herd, the longer the resources will last. For those that have a grasp on the resources, I guess.
Yeah, indeed.
That's outside of my venue. I'm always asking people I know about what they think. People are supposed to know things, and actually they had better answers 18 months ago than they have today.
It's interesting. It's interesting you'd point out that none of the so-called prophets or remote viewers really did, to my recollection, pick out this Y2K issue, and yet it's been talked about in the computer industry for a couple of decades now that there was a problem coming.
Well, it's not unusual for the psychic realm. Somebody published a book in 1972 of 17 psychics in Canada and the United States who were going to predict up to the year 1990, and none of them got the emergence of the Internet.
Wow.
The most significant thing to occur. So, I mean, psychics are sometimes not so psychic, I guess.
Psychics are sometimes human.
Yes.
the old expression. Ingo Swann, thank you very much for spending 3 hours with all of us. It's been extraordinary, and I appreciate your time very much. And good luck with the book. And
thank you very much. You all were wonderful.
Thank you, Ingo. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, one more time, the book by Ingo Swann, Penetration, the Question of Extraterrestrial and Human Telepathy. The order number is 888-453-4046, or you can just go to Ingo's website, and lots to do there, as you've gathered, I hope, www.biomindsuperpowers, that's all one word, biomindsuperpowers.com, and do drop by and take a look. It's Friday night, and that means tomorrow is a day off for yours truly. David John Oates will be here on many of these stations tomorrow night with the backwards reverse speech program that so many of you are enjoying. David here each Saturday from 7 to 10 Pacific. And then Sunday night I'll be back with Glenn Kimball. We're going to talk about the reality in Mr. Kimball's research of a man named Jesus Christ. And then great programs all next week as we get into, believe it or not, the month of February 1999. So have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Thanks for choosing to spend your time here tonight with me and Ingo Swann. Hope you have a great weekend. See you next time.